This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by the Virginia Education Association. An investment in teachers today will pay dividends tomorrow. Dignity Memorial. The Dignity Network provides professional and compassionate funeral, memorial, cremation, and cemetery services throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association for jobs, the economy, and public health, committed to advancing health and economic opportunity for all Virginians. Virginia Tourism Corporation, promoting why Virginia is for lovers, lovers of wine and craft beers, the outdoors, beaches, history, music, and more. Fall in love with Virginia at virginia.org. Additional support provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome to the Capitol Tour Supervisor and Historian, Mark Greenough. Mark, we've seen you in action over at the Capitol, leading tour groups all around and telling them interesting things about the Capitol, and really appreciate your talking to our viewers some about the Capitol and about their ability to come to the Capitol and have a tour.
Well, I'm very glad to be invited onto the show, and very happy to share the many opportunities that are available to people who come to see a living landmark to self-government. The stories we can tell are worthy of an international audience.
And so why you have thousands of visitors each year? Mm-hmm. Do people tell you why do they come? And I guess we might be asking our viewers why they don't come, but why do the people come to see the Capitol?
There are a lot of reasons that people come to see us, because in addition to remaining an active seat of government for the oldest elected lawmaking body meeting in the mainland Western Hemisphere, the Capitol over time has acquired some value-added functions. It's a bona fide historical attraction. We are a gem rating in the AAA guidebook for Virginia. It is a civics classroom for thousands of students coming from public and private schools from around the East Coast to visit. It is occasionally a film set for a variety of historical documentaries and the occasional television miniseries or even a feature film, as Steven Spielberg found out.
Yes, yes.
And it's even a fine arts museum. You know, we've got upwards of 30 pieces of statuary on display, more than 90 paintings hanging in public places on different floors of the Capitol. So it has these value-added functions that bring people in for a variety of reasons.
Now, tour groups come in, and we always are seeing school buses parked out the entrance, and they seem to know the process, but some of our viewers may not know. Can they just show up? Do they need appointments? What do they need to do in order to get in on a tour?
Well, we make it easy. We are open most days throughout the year, including the days after Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's.
Which is unique.
Other state government offices will be closed, but the Capitol is open on the days following those three major holidays. We're also, by definition, open on any holiday that falls within the legislative session. And people are sometimes interested to learn that we continue giving tours when the General Assembly is in session. We change how we do the tours, and there's a little more weaving and dancing involved to coexist with the legislative process. But the building remains open during legislative session, and that would please Thomas Jefferson. He's the one who writes that wherever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. And that quote, it's a good one, and it encourages people to come and see the building. I think the Capitol rewards the curious. There's always something new to discover or rediscover here. And if you are coming as an individual or as a couple or as a family, we take walk-ins and provide free daily guided tours that typically last about an hour.
I was wondering how long. So it's about an hour.
Typically, but sometimes people have additional questions and there's always more to share. If you're coming as a group, and this is important to stress, if you have upwards of 10 or more people coming, it is a great idea to make an appointment with us in advance so that we can put you on the Capitol calendar, make sure you're not colliding with other groups, and make sure we're adequately staffed to meet demand on days that can become rather busy, especially during session and in the school field trip season. So if you're bringing 10 or more, give us a call ahead of time and we'll send you an email confirmation.
Now, I don't know if we want to put the phone number up or not, but I know we're putting up the website for the Virginia General Assembly website, where they're just a couple of clicks away
right
from getting right on.
But I don't mind mentioning the phone number because
Okay.
it's very intuitive. Area code 804-698-1788. And that's on purpose because guess which year the Capitol first began to function as a public place?
1788.
Yeah, 1788 and counting. We're the first state capitol to open in America after the Revolutionary War. And perhaps more importantly, and this comes as a surprise to people, we are the first classically correct Roman temple style government building on this side of the Atlantic Ocean. We are the prototype for the famous buildings up in Washington, D.C., who copied us with permission, and for countless other state capitals and courthouses and banks and churches and other important buildings where the public gather. So it's all about columns, pediments, and porticos, and that goes back to Thomas Jefferson. He's the one who, out of nowhere, inspired us to put up the first Roman temple-style public building in the Western Hemisphere.
Do you get questions about the dome? People coming
Yeah,
and wondering,
we do.
where's the dome?
Well, if you've not been to the Capitol before and you're looking for a building with a dome on it, which would seem to suggest a Capitol, we at first disappoint you because there's no visible dome on top of our classically correct Roman temple-style roof. It's an A-line pediment roof. But the surprise is inside, one of many interior surprises. Once you're in the rotunda and you look up, you see a bold, decorated dome which is hiding underneath the outside roof. It has its own skylight, which is directly below the exterior skylight on the Jefferson-designed roof. And I have to confess to a little mystery. You know, when a building is 230 years old and counting, there are bound to be mysteries. We're not quite sure how the dome got to where it is. We can find no evidence that it was part of Jefferson's original intent. But within,
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
as much as he likes domes, when he designs them, he puts them outside on the rotunda at the University of Virginia or on top of his own home at Monticello. But in the case of our interior dome, it appears to have been a value-added local option that was retrofitted within the silhouette of the building about 6 years after the Capitol opened. So it's here by 1794, and we're not exactly sure whose idea it was to add this dome, but it does respect Jefferson's intent for the exterior appearance of the building. I call it a stealth dome. It's an inside job.
And if I know the history well enough, Jefferson was still alive,
Oh,
so
yes.
he must have signed off on it in some
Well,
verbal way.
Jefferson gives us at least 3 different written commentaries on the Capitol building after he gets back from France to Virginia. It's interesting that Jefferson is considered the primary design architect for our building, but at the time he was giving us suggestions and guidance, he was 3,900 miles away from the construction site. He spent 5 years in France serving as America's minister to the French court. So he's an absentee advocate for the introduction of classical design for public purposes in America. When he gets back, he first sees the building before it's finished, but it is functioning by the time he comes back in 1789. And you can feel in looking at his written comments, there's Jefferson, the perennial optimist, slightly at odds with Jefferson, the fastidious perfectionist. And he sees that in his absence, we have made a few changes here and there. And he says they were not for the better.
Yes.
But he also says that the most important changes are susceptible to future correction. So the building will turn out just fine.
Yes. And we have some pictures. Our viewers will see those, and they need to come to the Capitol and see the 2 wings on either side.
Right.
Come about much later.
Much later than the original building, although for first-time visitors, they could easily imagine, when they take their first glance at the Capitol, sitting there as a centerpiece of the public grounds of Capitol Square, which are nicely landscaped to support the building. You could imagine the buildings are also, the wings are also 1788, but in fact they're 1906. And there's an interesting backstory to who designed the classically compatible and sympathetic wings that were added between 1904 and 1906. Users of the Capitol are familiar that the West Wing is containing the Senate chamber for 40 members, and the East Wing contains the House chamber for 100 members. And what a lot of people don't know is the background of the architect in the 20th century who designed these sympathetic extensions of Jefferson's original intent. His name was John Cavan Peebles. And perhaps not coincidentally, Peebles graduated in the 1890s with an engineering degree from guess which institution of higher learning?
Must have been UVA.
It was UVA, Jefferson's academical village,
right.
The big hobby of Jefferson's old age, an exemplar of classical textbook examples of architecture on the lawn. So John Peebles, a UVA grad, got the memo from Jefferson about the beauties of classical architecture, and he carried on supporting Jefferson's original intent in the 20th century. If Jefferson gave us a civic temple, Peebles gave us 2 templates on either side.
Mark, I'm sure our viewers will want to review this, what you've just talked about a few times, but more importantly, the excitement that you generate with your comments and your knowledge of the history. They need to come take a tour.
Right, and we make it easy.
Yes.
The public entrance is at Bank and 10th Streets. You walk in at street level in front of the Capitol at the base of the hill on which it stands, and you're greeted there by the Capitol Guide staff and the Division of Capitol Police. And once you go through security, we've got a lot of amenities for visitors, a gift shop, which is open Monday through Saturday, a cafe for lunch, which is Monday through Friday, extended hours during legislative session, and an exhibit space, which is self-guiding with changing exhibits. And then they can either self-guide on their own with the help of some maps and literature we provide on demand, or we always recommend the free guided tour, which will take them from the new extension that dates from 2007 into the original building, which dates to 1788. And if the legislature is not in session when they are visiting, tour guides have keys that give access to the House and Senate chambers in the 2 1906 wings.
Mark, thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond.
Oh,
and
you're welcome.
Our viewers will see you the next time on the tour.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're delighted to have Diane Seaborn on for this segment of This Week in Richmond and telling our viewers about Lobbyists in a Box and what's available to help them from the Division of Legislative Automated Services, DLAS, as it's sometimes referred to here around Capitol Square. But there's a wealth of material, and we're going to compress it into 10 or 12 minutes and give people a real taste of what they can get by way of using an automated system to track bills. So it's called Lobbyists in the Box. So tell us about it, Diane.
Yes, it's a we have the Legislative Information System, or we call it LIS for short. And in that system, we have a tool called Lobbyists in a Box, where people can log in and track legislation. And you can, we have one service. There's a free service with it. And with that service, you can create a profile, or so really like a file folder in a file cabinet, so to speak. And you can place 5 bills in it, based on your interest of what might be going on in the legislature, and track those bills. Store them in the profile, and then get email notifications when those bills change. And also with that ID, you can also create reports about legislation. You can go to any bill list on the site and log in and then create text reports or even spreadsheets of all the legislative data that's going on during the General Assembly session. So that's it in a nutshell. We also have a subscription service for it as well. But it's a fee-based service where you can track much more legislation than just 5 bills. Do you have any other questions on that, or?
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that, the free one, because I think the one that's a subscription, law firms and all kinds of organizations use that and they know about it, but I'm not really sure that people around the Commonwealth know that there is an automated system they can use for up to 5 bills at no cost. And I think that that's extremely helpful. We have some of your PowerPoints that will be showing that people can see just how simple this is. And so they really just, if they go to the legislative information system, then they click on Lobbyists in a Box, and then connected to that system got free.
Absolutely. Right there it says see our guide actually on that link, and you click that link and then it will guide you to the steps to register right away. You'll get an email that says you're ready to go, and so then you just go back to our site, log in, and then you're ready to start tracking legislation.
The other thing that we'll encourage people to take notice of is that there are training sessions that take place here at Capitol Square, and certainly in the latter part of November, and then in December, and then in early January before the session. I don't know how many of those you do, but you help train lots of people to use that system.
Right. The legislative process can be kind of confusing, basically. So since we offer the website, we also offer training through, as you mentioned, through December and January, basically. And really, we have what we call new user sessions. They're 2-hour sessions that really cover the whole legislative process from beginning to end. And then we cover how to track the legislation with Lobbyists in a Box. And then we do have review user sessions as well. And at that time, for folks who, like yourself, who've been around the legislative process for a long time, who just want to come back and get a refresher about what's new this year, maybe with some new features we put on the website, or maybe what's a few hot topics that might be coming up in the new General Assembly session. So that's the review user session. So we hold about 13 total of those sessions, though, right here on campus in the Pocahontas building. So, but yes, we do those though to try to reach out to folks and train them a little bit about how the whole process works. So
this PowerPoint that you provided for this show, and the information that people can find as they go on the DLAS site, if they're not able to get here for one of those trainings, and you wouldn't have enough space to train everyone, you'd have to be doing it a lot more times. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a self-training process, so they can walk through it and see how they can use that.
Right, there it is. Actually, we put the PowerPoint on our website so people can refer to that to do some self-training. And of course, they can always call our help desk for assistance as well. We have during the work days, during the General Assembly session, we man the help desk and take questions about the legislature in general, and about the website, and about how to track legislation. So those 2 options to try to train yourself with the online tools, and then call the help desk too if you need more assistance.
It's interesting, and we were talking just before we started recording the show, that you began working a couple of years before this automated system was set up, and that it hasn't been here forever, but it has been here for a long time.
It has actually. The site went live in 1994. And so we've had this online presence since then, and it's still going strong today, and it's even better than, of course, way better than it was back then, but I happen to have been around the whole time and watched it evolve from where it was in 1994 to where it is today. So it's been a pretty exciting process.
And on that system, people can go all the way back to 1994 and can look up bills.
Yes, they can, actually. It's a wonderful resource for legislative history, actually, because our legislature, the bills that get processed in the General Assembly session actually amend our Code of Virginia. So on our site, we also of course, supply the Code of Virginia. And so you can do backwards and forwards tracking of the legislation to how it amended the code. And so and then you can look at the code and look back to the legislation that amended it. So not only do we show the legislation as it's occurring every single session, you can also look to it for great legislative research.
As you think about changes that have taken place, are there some that come to mind, some changes in the last few years in that Lobbyists in a Box that people have found very helpful and very useful?
Well, within that tool itself, the Lobbyists in a Box tool, we have either tracking tools. You can create reports and spreadsheets of the specific bills that you're tracking. And I find that people find that very helpful to be able to export that data into spreadsheets, for example. And then you can even, from that, then you can even take spreadsheets and import data into databases, for example. So we have a lot of people I know throughout Richmond who create their own databases to track legislation, and they're very good at it. So so that's one really helpful resource with that tool. But also on our website, on the LIS website itself, just in recent years, we've created a brand new budget portal. That's a very easy to navigate new portal for the state budget. That I've seen that. That's just recent, in about the past 3 years.
Yeah, that's extremely helpful.
Right, and now as for anyone who's ever tracked the budget, they know it's a complicated process in itself. And so we hope that if people look to that site, it might help navigate it just a little bit anyway. And actually, we have I mentioned the Code of Virginia, and we have a new code portal on the site as well that not only shows the Code of Virginia, but the Virginia Administrative Code, which are state regulations. We have the Constitution under that portal, and a lot of other helpful resources that weren't there, of course, back in 1994.
People talk a lot about transparency, and I think that entire site helps to provide tremendous amount of transparency about what is happening even before the final act, and then what has happened. And the part that you mentioned on the budget, that it's so helpful. People are wondering about the budget. You came in carrying a copy of I think maybe the budget bill with you. It's thick.
It absolutely is.
But the nice thing about what you provide on that site is you can search for different items in the budget by subject and can find them.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, that new budget portal, yes, you can go to it and type in a keyword search or an item number in the budget and find it pretty easily. So it's a Google search engine that runs the back end of that, and I know of course, all of us who navigate the web know how to use Google. So that's what makes it such a much better product than it was before. So
I'm sure that's very helpful to legislators as well as to the general public to be able to use that.
Yes, I certainly hope so. I hope they do use it.
Yes,
so.
Because some of them, if and there are still a few who were serving before 1994, they know what it was like to be using bill books and then to have everything on paper. Right,
exactly. I'm sure there are still some members who've been here that long. So yes.
Now, so we've got the PowerPoint, and our viewers are seeing a fair amount of it, but they'll not have time to digest all of it, but they can go to the site and see it. What else might you suggest to them? The session starts January 9th. Any suggestions of what they might do before the 9th to be kind of ready? Because it's a short session, and before February ends, the session will have adjourned.
Right, exactly. Yes, we did start pre-filing, or the members started pre-filing legislation back in July. And so if you go to the Legislative Information System site, you'll see the bills that have been posted since July. And so it's a great time now if for folks out there who've never looked at this legislative information, they should go now and see the proposals that are out there for this upcoming session. So the bills will continue to be introduced, and then, as you mentioned, session will begin on January 9th. And then 2 weeks into session, it's literally a week and a half, that we have a bill cutoff time where no more bills are introduced. no more bills that actually amend the Code of Virginia. So right now is the great time to jump in and start looking at what's out there, and because when that 2-week time period ends, then hopefully if you're using Lobbyists in a Box, you've added those bills to your profiles and you're ready to go. Because one other feature about those profiles is
Diane, I'm getting signal that our time is up.
Okay.
So let's send them to that site, and thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond.
Yes, thank you very much.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by the Virginia Education Association. An investment in teachers today will pay dividends tomorrow. Dignity Memorial. The Dignity Network provides professional and compassionate funeral, memorial, cremation, and cemetery services throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association for jobs, the economy, and public health. Virginia Tourism Corporation, promoting why Virginia is for lovers of wine and craft beers, the outdoors, beaches, history, music, and more. Fall in love with Virginia at virginia.org. Additional support provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.